The 5th of June 1967. It is morning 7:45 a.m. Some 200 aircrafts take off from Israeli air bases. The aircrafts fly over Mediterranean Sea for a while and then turn towards Egypt. As soon as the aircrafts reach at Egypt, they start firing missiles at Egyptian airfields. This is a surprise attack on Egypt by Israel. About 90% of Egyptian Air Force is destroyed on the ground. By the end of the day, Jordan and Syria have also joined the war on Egypt's side. The war lasts for about 6 days. On the 10th of June, Israel agrees upon the United Nations ceasefire, but till the end of war, Israel has completely captured Sinai Peninsula, Gaza, West Bank, East Jerusalem, and Golan Heights. This is the third Arab-Israeli war since 1948. While the war lasted for 6 days, but impacts of the war are alive to till day. Western Wall is the holiest site among Jews, which is located in East Jerusalem. Prior to the war, Jordan ruled East Jerusalem for about 19 years since 1948. During Jordanian rule, Jews were expelled from East Jerusalem and were prohibited from praying at the Western Wall. But now, after Israel's victory, Jews can visit and pray at the Western Wall for the first time since 1948. On the other hand, Israel's victory in the Six-Day War turns into a sea of despair for Palestinians. Out of 1 million, more than 300,000 Palestinians flee or they are expelled from their homes in Gaza and West Bank, while the remaining find themselves living under Israeli control. Israel begins constructing new Israeli settlements in the occupied territories. Establishment of security checkpoints, roadblocks, and curfews by the Israeli military further adds to the daily life challenges of Palestinians. This is not the first time Palestinians are affected by the war. Many of the Palestinians living under Israeli control are already living a refugee life since 1948. They were displaced in the First Arab-Israeli War of 1948 and settled in the refugee camps here in Gaza and West Bank. Out of many other refugees in Gaza, there is one Sheikh Ahmed Yassin. Ahmad Yassin is a religious scholar and clerk of a mosque in Gaza. He is crippled and half-blind due to a spine injury. It passes about 6 years to the Israeli occupation that Ahmad Yassin establishes an Islamic charity organization in Gaza in the year 1973. This organization is named as Mujama al-Islamiyah. Mujama builds mosques, clinics, blood banks, and schools. It starts offering healthcare, financial aid, and social services to the public, especially those in refugee camps. Leader of the Islamic Center, Yassin is mainly aimed at restoring the Islamic values in Palestinian society and stays away from politics. It has been around 20 years to the Israeli occupation of Palestinian territories since the Six-Day War. Israel has officially merged East Jerusalem to the West Jerusalem and called the unified Jerusalem city as the capital of Israel. Continued Israeli settlements, land confiscation, deportations, and extended imprisonments have heightened the grievances and frustration of Palestinians. These grievances are not yet mitigated that, on the 8th of December 1987, an Israeli military truck crashes into a civilian car, killing 4 Palestinian workers in Gaza. On the following day, tens of thousands of Palestinians take to the roads. They throw stones and Molotov cocktails at Israeli targets. They demand self-determination and an end to the Israeli occupation. On the 10th of December, several members of the Islamic charity organization meet at Yassin's house. Here they discuss on how to take advantage of the car incident and channel the anger and frustration of people into a religious resistance. From this day, the idea of Hamas emerges. 4 days later, Hamas leaders issue a leaflet that calls on people to stand up to the Israeli occupation. Palestinian protests and riots continue for about 6 years. In history, these protests are known as the First Palestinian Uprising or the First Intifada. Aside from Hamas, there are also other Islamist and nationalist organizations that are involved in resistance. The most prominent one of them is the PLO, an acronym for Palestine Liberation Organization, that is led by Yasser Arafat. In the following years of Intifada, Hamas carries on issuing leaflets, organizing, and leading strikes and protests, but Yassin, the Hamas leader, keeps his group away from armed resistance for the next 1 year. This is why Israeli authorities turn a blind eye towards Hamas but focus mainly on PLO, that is more militant than Hamas. In the year 1988, Hamas issues its charter and declares that all the historic land of Palestine belongs to Palestinian Muslims and that it is religious duty of every Muslim to fight for the liberation of Palestine. It also adds that Palestine could only be liberated through holy war. Proposals, negotiations, and conferences are only a waste of time. On the other side, the protests of the First Intifada continued till September 1993, when Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin and PLO leader Yasser Arafat sign a peace agreement in Washington, D.C. PLO recognizes the State of Israel, and Israel allows the PLO to establish a limited self-government in parts of the West Bank and Gaza. This peace agreement gains international admiration. But on the other side, when a hope for peace is built among the people, Hamas completely rejects the peace agreements. Not only Hamas, but some Israeli extremists reject it too. From year 2000 till March 2004, Hamas initiates nearly 60 suicide bomb attacks in different Israeli cities and towns. Most of these attacks were carried out in Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, Binyamina, Haifa, and Netanya. On the 22nd of March 2004, when Ahmad Yassin is being wheeled out of a mosque after early morning prayer in Gaza, an Israeli helicopter AH-64 Apache fires missiles at Yassin. Yassin is killed on the spot. Major international community condemns the killing, while Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon justifies the killing by calling Yassin as mastermind of Palestinian terror. Let's us fast-forward the history. In 2005, Israel withdraws its military forces and settlers from Gaza, and in 2007, Hamas gains control over Gaza after clashes with Fatah, another Palestinian political party, and since then Hamas has been ruling the region. Since 2007, Hamas has fought several wars with Israel. Aside from firing rockets and missiles, Hamas militants have also sent incendiary balloons into Israeli territory. Balloons that look appealing to children. These balloons were floated from Gaza border and upon landing, caused fire to thousands of acres of farmland and forests in nearby Israeli territory. Incendiary balloons are balloons filled with helium and attached to some inflammable material. These balloons, when launched from Gaza, would take the help of winds from Mediterranean Sea to reach Israeli territory. The most recent attack by Hamas is Operation Al-Aqsa Flood, when on the morning of the 7th of October, Hamas fired some 5,000 rockets into Israel in a span of just 20 minutes. That day, Hamas attacked Israel from air, land, and sea. Hundreds of fighters breached through security barrier. Several fighters entered into Israeli territory using paragliders, while a few militants entered from the coastal side using a motorboat. This was all carried out in a much coordination. Israel has launched counter-military operation in retaliation, which Israel has named as Operation Iron Swords. Major key buildings in Gaza are destroyed, and thousands of civilians are killed in Israeli airstrikes. If we talk about the organizational structure of Hamas, then Ismail Haniyeh is the current political leader of the organization operating from Qatar, while Yahya Sinwar leads the group from within the Gaza Strip. On the other side, Mohammed Diaf commands the military wing of Hamas, which is known as Al-Qassam Brigades. What international community say about Hamas? Internationally, most countries of the world consider Hamas a terrorist organization. European Union, Israel, United States, United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and Japan have designated Hamas as a terrorist organization, while countries that do not consider it a terrorist organization are Iran, Qatar, Turkey, Russia, and China. Hamas's stance in the context of Palestine-Israel conflict has been rigid. It rejects the existence of the State of Israel and aims to establish an Islamic Palestinian state over entire historic Palestinian territory, including the current State of Israel. It also believes in the liberation of Palestine through armed resistance. It rejects negotiations, as negotiations call for a two-state solution where both the states of Israel and Palestine will coexist. Since 2007, Israel has maintained a total blockade of Gaza Strip. Israel has been controlling the borders, sea waters, and air of Gaza. Cross-border movement of people and goods is highly monitored by Israeli authorities. So a question may arise, how Hamas gets its weapons. Since 2007, Hamas has built a complex network of underground tunnels. They smuggle weapons into the enclave through these clandestine tunnels, while some weapons are smuggled through boats that escape the Mediterranean blockade. Besides smuggling, Hamas also builds its own weapons locally. Over the course of 16 years, it has evolved from simple unguided rockets to more lethal weapons, including precision-guided suicide drones and advanced missiles.
Meanwhile, The war that escalated on October 7th is still going on as of January 2024. Now many questions may arise, but one question is that, will Israel eliminate Hamas by force? Or even if Hamas is eliminated, will this terrorism and violence come to an end? From history, we know that when Israel used military force to eliminate PLO and expelled it from Lebanon to Tunis in 1982, the resistance and violence against Israel did not end, but rather other militant groups like Hezbollah and Hamas emerged in the future. The reasons are the prevailing root causes. Although there is a complex chain of underlying causes, but the root causes are nationalism, religion, and socioeconomic deprivation. Aside from this, one thing that is more clear from history is that each time a war escalates, innocent civilians are killed on both sides. War has its own laws. Killing innocent people is a serious crime. Thanks.